everyone, and welcome to another episode of Becoming the Product. My name is Naya, your host as always, and today's episode is for anyone who has ever thought, I have figured out a few things, but who am I to teach them? If that has ever crossed your mind, pause and breathe. You are not alone. The truth is, you don't need to be an expert to be a guide. You just need to have walked the path and be willing to turn around and share what you have learned. So today I'm taking you behind the scenes, from building MVPs from my own side projects to creating courses and getting paid to share what I already knew. Spoiler alert, it did not start with a business plan or a fancy camera. Let me take you back a little bit how it all started. I never planned to become a course creator now. There was no fancy vision board moment, no online educator identity. I was just trying to make sense of my own chaos. Back then, I had all these questions. Am I even qualified to be a PM? What does an MVP actually look like for a solo builder? How do I show what I have done without a fancy job title? So I started documenting all the late night works, my 1,000 messy Notion pages. I have so many Notion pages, y'all. All the sticky notes on my computer, all the notes on my phone. I wasn't creating for anyone else. I was creating to survive and to understand. But then things shifted. People started reaching out, asking, how did you build your MVP? How do you break down MVP without codes? What's in your PM portfolio? I remembered in some of the communities I volunteered in earlier, a lot of people were very interested in PM portfolio. I even had to do an article about it on LinkedIn because of the amount of questions I got. Then my answers got longer. Like I said, I started doing articles on some particular topics so that people could just read it instead of me replying DMs. Then I thought that, hold on, this isn't just me rambling. This is actually a system. And that is where the idea for Build Without Permission and the side hustle stories came from. What started out as a survival note became a curriculum. And what felt too messy to teach turned out to be exactly what people needed. So I want to talk about a few points. Number one is, teaching is just documentation. Okay, let's blow that wide open. You don't need to be a certified expert to teach. You just need to know how to document your experience. If you've solved the problem for yourself, that is step one. If you've repeated it for someone else, you've got something teachable. Think of it like this. That Notion board you made to track your job search, that system you built to manage freelance projects, that Airtable or Google Sheet you customize to track users' feedback, that is already a resource. Teaching is simply this. Here is what I tried, here is what worked, and here is what I'll do differently. It doesn't need polish. It needs honesty, clarity, and usefulness. The second point I want to talk about is your lived experience has structure. I used to think that my story was too all over the place. I worked in the bank, I worked in a fintech, I stayed at home for a couple of months, I moved from psychology, I had international business as my degree. Everything was all over the place, and there was no way to teach this. But then I zoomed out, and when you zoom out, you see all the pattern, you see how it all links up. You start to notice the key decisions that you were taking, the loops you kept repeating, the things that actually moved the needle. And you realize that, wait, this is a framework actually. Even if it's messy, even if it doesn't make sense, it is your framework. And for me, that turned into the Smart PM roadmap. A way to make sense of how I transitioned, how I built, how I shipped, and how I documented proof along the way. But for you, it might be different. Maybe it's a 3-part video series, a 5-step checklist, a carousel post, even a 1-page guide. Don't overcomplicate it. Your experience already has shape. You just need to put some language around it. The third and final point is, start small and start free. You don't need to launch with a full course platform. You don't need a studio setup or a massive audience. I started by answering questions in the DMs, responding to comments. I shared simple breakdowns on LinkedIn. I have so many carousels, so many articles. I started going into Notion templates. Then I recorded a lo-fi course in my house, in my parlor. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, useful, and it's mine. The goal isn't perfection, it's momentum. So start with what you have. If you have a recorded voice note of how you solved the problem, post about it. It could be a Google Doc mini guide. It could be a live session, maybe on LinkedIn, on social media, Instagram, for even if it's 5 people. A carousel that maps your process and build from there. One thing to note is that you don't need permission to teach what you've practiced. You just need proof that it worked, even if it's just once, even if it's for you. That one person you helped, that counts. That process you tested, that counts. That insight you wrote down, that counts. If anything I said today struck a chord and you're sitting on an experience that could help someone else, don't overthink it. Start messy, start small, just start. And if you want a behind the scenes look of how I build without permission, how I structured my MVP without code, and how I packaged it all into something teachable, check out the mini course. It is part of the Proof and Practice bundle. Links are in the show notes. And here, if you are not subscribed to the Becoming the Product newsletter, I'm going to pause right now and wait for you to do that. Just kidding. It's something that is really nice, and I share so many stories there as well, and you have so many free resources there as well. We are building in public, we are documenting the process, and we are turning lived experience into leverage. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Share this with a fellow builder, creative, or aspiring course creator, and tag me if you're teaching from practice, not theory. I'll see you next week. Have a great week.